In a nation where dwindling opportunities, insecurities, and unemployment seem to be the experience of the Nigerian youth, well, the youth is finding and devising new ways and often harmful ways for survival. From digital hacks to ritual killing, it has become alarming the rate at which the youth in Nigeria is trying to find ways to survive. Well, we are discussing the Nigerian youth and survival tendencies in a time like this. Our guest is a humanitarian and an administrator. He's Godsown Onuzulike. Good morning, Mr. Godsown, and thank you for joining us this morning on the show.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Interesting. Quite recently, there's this viral virtual video of an individual in Zagreb that incidentally he was caught as a ritualist. Dead bodies were exhumed from his compound. Turns out he's not just a ritualist, but he's also a dibia in our local parlance. He's way beyond 50. I don't know if you watched the video. He's a young man.
Yeah.
And the people caught in his compound were within 30, 36, 38 young people.
And even younger.
And even younger. And even younger. It's so sad. How would you describe, the survival tendencies of the Nigerian youth in these times, given the fact that it's become economically, tight for everyone in Nigeria? You could actually try to compare it with the youth in the 80s and the 90s, and then the youth in recent times. What really has changed? Why has the youth become so desperate? What's your take?
All right, thank you very much. Personally, I think that where we got it all wrong is lack of proper parenting. That's, for me, that's the first segment or the first stage of education, where morals is supposed to be instilled on our children. The parents of these days seem not to be well parented, and they have taken up the assignment of parenting others. And of course, when the blind leads the blind, definitely they're going to fall into a ditch. Someone that was not properly parented. And look at that person now, having a family, having children. He or she is going to instill the value he prefers.
Or not at all.
Or not at all. We leave it vague. They will start scrambling for whatever they see. They will be nurtured by whatever they can find in the society. So I think this is where we failed it. That's the point. First, not because there is difficulties in the land. They say necessity is the mother of invention. And it should be positive invention. The time it takes you to commit crime, the same time it takes you to do the right thing.
Something productive.
Yes.
Right, but I want us to trace backwards and find out what exactly it was that caused this huge paradigm shift. Because in those days, you hear things like, no, we don't do these things if I have on son.
Yeah.
But right now, it's as though anything goes. And you're saying it because most of our youth, they are being parented by people who are not really parented.
Yes.
So at what point, or was there an event that brought about this paradigm shift? And what generation dropped the ball?
Now, it's all about, is a drift. And this drift, it's not always obvious. But those of us who seem to study a little or who are exposed a little will tell you that this sign, this signal is depicting danger that is going to happen in the future. So it's a drift. It started that way, and also there is other things that also helped it. In the society, the religious sector and the traditional settings or sector, they are meant to be one of those institutions that is supposed to help also to instill morals. Now, in these two sectors, we find out that they give most of the time praises and accolades to people who make money, not minding, not caring their source of fund. So gradually the youth now begin to see that all that matters is
money.
How you made it is no longer an issue. Even parents that are morally inclined to an extent that they query some of their children. My boy, how did you get this? Other parents will go at the back and start scolding these parents. Your child is successful, instead of you being happy. Join him to the church to go and thank God. Thank God for what? Thank God for what? So all these things gradually contributed to this build-up. Like I said, it's a drift. And gradually, our youths, all they now think of is how to blow, not how to grow.
Interestingly,
how to blow.
It's really important. I like the fact that you mentioned two institutions, the traditional and the religious institution. Now, I want to paint a scenario to you. It's hypothetical too, but it's what's present in the society. You find two individuals, same age, from the same environment. They go to school, right? One decides to study higher, pays the bills, gets a PhD, master's of some sort. The other one decides to go into entertainment and probably enrolls in one of these reality TV shows, the very popular one. And then from there, he or she comes out, gets an endorsement, becomes an influencer, gets a political appointment, maybe special advisor rather on entertainment to a governor. And the other one that has a PhD is still struggling to get a job that pays 120,000 naira for a start. Now, is it just the parenting? Is it just the failure of the traditional and the religious sectors? What else do you think is the contributing factor when the society applauds one that didn't put in much, just went and did a few things on a reality show, some new things on the reality show, and this other one that put in the energy, the effort, the sweat, the money, and nobody even knows he or she exists? What other factors can you attribute?
I've mentioned the parents, the failure on the side of the parents, the failure on the side of the traditional and even the religious institutions, then also the government itself. Because last time here I talked about curriculum.
Yes.
Our education system is not something that is worth it for now. What we are bringing out to the market, what we are dishing out into the market is not something to be recommended. Now, we produce students that have certificate, but they don't have certificates.
Wow, could you break that down?
They have certificates. They have certificate, but they don't have
sabi.
They don't sabi anything at all. And because we have already been wrongly oriented also, these students, these youth, and even the parents pay whatever to get that certificate, forgetting that it is the certificate that will determine the future of this child, how prosperous, how successful that child is going to be. So their motive was wrong from onset. What they were looking for is certificate.
Yes.
Even when you are talking of PhD, they are looking for PhD certificate. That's all. What it takes to even defend the PhD is not in them. They don't have the market skill. They don't have the ability to defend even that certificate. So the motive being wrong already scored them 0. So out there, you have someone who is a professor and you have another professor. When you weigh these two professors in a scale, this one will be weighing 1,000 kg, this one will be 100 kg. So these things are part of the build-up. Like I said, the motive. Whatever you give in life is what you receive. You can't cheat life. It's garbage in, garbage out. So this, I believe these institutions had root, but I blame much more the individuals themselves, because there is the police God planted in us, and that police is conscience. I blame the individual and themselves. God planted a conscience in you. You know. For instance, this guy that they are referring to, he has a wife, possibly, and children. You mean you kill another woman, you are preserving your own?
How do you want it to play out?
You have conscience, for crying out loud. So they just, like the scripture say, that their conscience have been seared.
That's right. They do have conscience, but they have seared
So they killed their conscience. So it's all about the choice they make. The life is, a man is a free moral agent, and the scripture says life and death has been kept before us. Let us make choice. And of course, you know that you are answerable to your choices. But my pain is that we are losing a lot. A lot of innocent persons are going. If you ask me, I'm sorry, but some persons may stand to differ from my opinion. But the very moment we began to talk about going back to our origin, the very moment we began to clamor and begin to support some traditional cultures and habits and behaviors that are not morally standard, the very moment. So a lot of persons, I'm not against my origin, I'm not against my source, I'm not against our culture, but any culture that is anti-human being, that culture is supposed to be deleted completely. The Igbo nation is not known for bravery. They are not cowards. They are very intelligent. They are very logical. You don't bring anything to an Igbo man and ask the Igbo man to take. He takes time to look at it, survey it, be sure that it's okay. That's our parents. So our parents looked at certain cultures. After examining them, they decided to make a shift. They decided to shift from certain culture. But suddenly, the young one came up, and I don't know who sold the idea, and they bought the idea that we should start going back. Now, no, those of us who now went back don't even know the boundaries and the limits again. We don't know the boundaries and the limits. And because they are not getting support from everybody, yes, everybody should go back, they are now having this backup. Even when they are committing the crimes, we still continue to fame or to fund the crime.
Yes.
Through our support.
You know, I didn't ask you, and I said, what was it that caused this massive paradigm shift? Now, you remember in Okonkwo, Things Fall Apart, how Okonkwo was depicted as a son of Unoka, and Unoka wasn't well-to-do, he was a drunkard. However, the son of a drunkard actually rose to become an important person in the society. That was the egalitarian system. That was what the Indigo were known for.
Represent.
But you find out that in recent times, you have to be the son of someone. You're looking for employment. Whose son are you? What's the name of your father? And things like that. Now, do you think this was what? Because I feel it's a cause and effect thing. I do not think that the youths just woke up and started, acting.
Obviously.
Yes. So, do you think that shift from that egalitarian system of governance, where the son of a nobody can rise up to become somebody today, to what you have, someone can go to school, get a PhD, and find it difficult to get a job because you don't know anybody? You think that's the major paradigm shift that drove the youths to this point?
I still also, let me start my contribution from the last thing you said. Go to school and getting out from school and you don't have anybody to get a job. That is the same error that I said happens in the school. The school is not supposed to produce you as someone that is looking for a job, but rather an employer of labor. That is what the school is supposed to produce our students to be. And that is the kind of school system that I advocate for. A school system, when you are graduating, you are already an employer of labor. I have a lot of them. I run an organization, the Potter School Foundation, and we are training a lot of students. A lot of the students we are training, they are training themselves in the school. We provided skills for them, and these skills are not costly. But some of their fellow students see it as a demeaning, it's an insulting thing for them to go doing some of these things to be able to get money. So, in the first place, why would you graduate? And I'm sorry, I'm a little bit a strange person. Why would you graduate and you are looking for a job? You should graduate and even be providing job. That's the system. So, but I will not blame the youth entirely. I will blame the system that has kept this wrong balance before now. But I want to challenge every youth that is listening to me. Please stop behaving as if stop having this entitlement mentality. This thing should be kept for me. This one should be waiting for me. You, what plan do you have for yourself?
For yourself.
Everything that you needed to be successful is in you. Just develop it. Start working. Start bringing them out, and you will become successful. So, if you and then you talked about the idea of people having nobody to recommend them and so on and so forth. Going deep also, I have taken time. I have traversed several states in this country, training the youth. I discovered that most of our youth that they are telling us that they don't have job, they are unemployed. They are unemployable. You understand what I mean? Even when the job is there, they cannot be employed in that to do that job. They don't have what it takes to do that job. Though graduates, but they are unemployable. They don't have the skill. Yeah. They don't have the customer service knowledge. They don't have the problem solving skill. They lack a lot of things. They lack a lot of things. Yes. So,
all right. There's something you mentioned here that is quite striking. I was in a program, a business roundtable, and someone came, a manufacturer here in England, said it is not that people. It's not just about being unemployed. It's the fact that people are not employed. Employability quotient is so low. You find someone that you employ him or her, the person doesn't even know how to take inventory or even write things correctly. So it boils down to the fact that the system, the educational system that is churning them out is probably not doing a good job. And you have alluded to the fact that our education is outdated. What is the way forward with education? Because I believe personally that the reason for education is to bring out individuals that can proffer solutions to the peculiar problems, in the environment. And it seems as though our education is not doing a good job at bringing out individuals that can solve the problems that we have. What's the way forward? How can we begin to reform our educational system?
Of course, we have a lot of attempts that the government has made and they are making. And one of them is to give a second touch to our curriculum. Make it at all levels, primary, secondary, tertiary. Now, but as those policies, our problem here also is that we are good in looking out for good policies, but to implement the policy is a problem. We have good policies, but to implement them becomes a problem. And sometimes it's not the problem of who the man on top. Because the system is already corrupt. As the instruction is given, people who are even in the middle men or the middle women, they will be frustrating the agenda through their inordinate demands and so on and so forth. So the approach to change, to give a second touch to our curriculum is one of those steps. To the introducing vocational education at all levels. Thank God for our state governor, for both the smart school, the technical education, GTC that is being reformed and all that. I also read something I think on the news a few days ago that the federal government decided to be giving something to all the technical students, or I don't know whether bursary or whatever, or to pay their fees or something like that. I saw when I saw it, I noted. I said, yes, this is the kind of step to take so that our students will begin to think towards that direction. Let's go here. I think there is possibility here. When our education is more practical, is more hands-on, we have better results. I have a university in this Enugu for advert's sake, I wouldn't want to mention their name, that entered into partnership with my organization, the Pottersville Foundation. Their students, they made it compulsory that from year one till you graduate, you must be having vocational training. You must learn one skill a year. And they have a vision every year for you to showcase it, so that by the time you are leaving the university, you have at least 4 tangible skills.
Interesting.
So, such a student, away from those skills he or she learned, it's already making the person employable. The person is developing employability skill in the course of those hands-on skills. So if the person is a nurse, is studying to be a nurse or to be whatever, in that field of in their career field, she or he will be different. When you meet her in the office, you will know that you met a different person, because he has a versatile knowledge. He has a lot of development up here.
All right. But do you think introduction of vocational studies, it has its own, gains? Do you think that will actually curb the incessant, quest for spiritism, ritualist, activities? How do you think the curriculum can actually improve on morals? Because I know vocational studies, skill acquisition might not have a direct impact on the morals and value system of an individual. So using the educational, system, what can be done to the curriculum to introduce morals and values?
Same way some institutions have introduced vocational training. I understand that the NUC for the university, for instance, have 70% control of the courses. Why the university have 30%. I believe so. So same way they can domesticate the courses for the students in that institution, in that area. There are values that can be gotten from these courses that will be domesticated. In this school, there is a program I'm running, and they had to add a course that has to do something about marriage, and I've forgotten exactly the way they coined the course. I know that was not from UNUC, but that alone will help to develop your marital understanding and life before you go into it in the school. So the schools can come up with courses that will help
private schools now.
Both private and government school, of course. Government owned also should, of course, they have their 30%. If I'm right, I'm not saying it authoritatively, but I believe NUC have a portion. The locals, the school itself, or the environment, the owners of the school have a certain percent of cost they have control, or the state they have control over. You introduce it to help, because our culture here and the culture in the north is not the same thing. So you domesticate the courses to help our people, to suit our people.
Yes. All right. So, Mr. Godsown, you've spoken a lot to the family. You've spoken to the educational system. Let's talk about the traditional system. And people saying, let's go back to our origin, let's go back to our culture, without even understanding the boundaries. They don't even understand those issues, those little nuances. Now, do you think that shift, because it's also a shift, a paradigm shift in itself, where people are saying, okay, so the church has not answered most of our questions, let's go back to our roots. Now, do you think everything concerning traditional Igbo practice should be expunged? But what if you feel otherwise, then what are the things we should keep, and what are the things that should be discarded?
All right. I don't think everything about our traditional culture should be expunged. There are ones that even our parents who did the shift left after considering a lot of things. I remember that some of our parents in those days, that they go to worship one idol or the other. They stop their children from coming to worship. They tell them to go to church. You can imagine a parent that is doing something and is not confident enough to ask the child to come and join. That means he believes that something is, if I follow, if I had draw complete, there is this side of it that could be hazardous, that could be dangerous to the life of the children. So he stops them from coming close. So there are areas, there are cultures that are just, the culture is the way of life of people. That is what it's supposed to be, their way of life. And any of their way of life that is not criminally inclined, that does not go against nature, does not go against God, Of course, when you are talking about going against God, it stops. The way you know that you have gone against God is when you've gone against human being, because it is you that is the God I am seeing. If the culture I'm practicing will not harm you, why would I go ahead to do that? The other time we had some people, they were doing what they call, is it Oreo or whatever, and somebody was going, a nurse that is supposed to be taking care of them when they are sick. The Oriopa, they flogged her into the doctor. You see this, and somebody is saying it's our culture. No, something is wrong with such culture. The culture needs deliverance. The culture needs to be touched, given a touch. Yeah, so I'm not against to expunge. I'm not for expunging the entire culture, but let's look at it. Let's look at even what our parents dropped. Let's do a review. I'm sorry, I'm not I'm not speaking, I'm trying to bring up my point on this platform to try to make some persons look like their own points are not valid enough. But I was discussing with someone. I said, you are quarreling that some persons came with a book and deceived us. I said, but do you know that they were able to put the records of their fathers in a book? Do we have such book?
And it's a problem.
Do we have such book? Now, in their own book, you can now see they wrote down everything. The one that is bad, the one that is good. And somebody taught me and said there are three things to look for in the scripture. One is promises of God. Two, the principles. And three, the errors you must correct, because they wrote down everything. Now, where is our own book? You didn't, and that is where you should have even started. Right. Let's document and find out how did they go about this thing, from where to where, what time. Let's now look at it holistically and say, from this point to this point, it will look at the consequences of this action that was taken here, and so because of this one should not be done. Something like that. We are just blindly following something, and we are heading to the ditch. Then our people now, we are no longer saving our own forest. We are no longer saving our own farm. And the people that is after us is our own people. If on a natural ground, and where are we coming out from this? Because even the people we are hailing, we are giving the traditional honors. We are giving the award. I saw someone giving an award. Giving him an award. And I felt ashamed.
We don't even do any.
We don't do
background.
Yes. We just give award anyhow. We just, because the person has the money.
Values misplaced.
We has, and I have this issue with this praying of money. This is my own personal view. It should be stopped. It's not about mutilating of Nigerian currency. The currency. It should be stopped, because what people see is what attracts them. Our people, our young ones, all they are seeing is the amount of money somebody is spraying. And they want to go for it by all means. The other time we saw on the news a boy that is 20 years that had to kill his girlfriend in order to make money. 20 years old boy. What's he talking about? What is he doing with money? In the first place, how did he even have a girlfriend at 20 years old? You see that a lot of things are wrong. And that is why I started with parents. If we must get it right, we need to parent every parent, so that our parents will now begin to parent their children properly. At least train them in the way of the Lord. The Bible says that when they grow up, they may meet a lot of distractions, but somehow something will drag them back to that thing you have, to that moral. They will remember that our dad don't do this, our mom don't do this. You are a woman, you are doing hookup in the name of business, and your child is watching you, and tomorrow you want her to not to go through that route. She will. Definitely.
You know, people saying now. It's more of how you portray, not just about what you say. It's interesting you talked about morals just before you concluded your submission. So we've spoken to a lot of things, like I said earlier, tradition, family. Let's talk about religion. What's your take on the role of religion on the current issues concerning the youth and their quest for money?
We have, to be frank, I believe that we have genuine priests, genuine reverend fathers, prophets, evangelists. They are scattered everywhere. But do you know what I believe that happened, or what I foresaw that happened? When these people who are clamoring for going back to our base, when they entered the church, they brought in these demonic ideas and concepts. The part of the culture that we should eschew. They brought it. They brought it in, and the youths decided to see only those ones that are doing it wrong. Because when you ask them, they will say, "Is it not? Did it happened in so church?" How many? If we find out, if we're in Enugu now, for instance, we take a record, take statistic, and we have 50 churches, and you discover 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 churches that took part, is taking part in some or wholesome things that are immoral. You should, So
definitely,
you should definitely know that thing should not be used to judge the entire church.
Yes.
It should not be used to judge the entire church.
Yes.
So, but unfortunately, our youth have taken that decision. But I still ask the church that to go ahead to make sure that there is a cleansing. Let's say this person is not doing it right.
Yeah.
Let's be able to tell them the truth. And of course, the Bible says the truth shall set us free.
Truth, and you can do nothing against the truth.
Yeah.
But for the truth, it is the truth that will set us free.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mr. Godsown, for your insights on this matter. You've been really, really insightful. Thank you so much. Okay. All right, New Day continues after now. Just stay with us.
Save Nature TV. News in your pocket.